With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. Dressed in all black like the Omen, which means we got problems, man. So I wasn't planning on doing a video because there's nothing to talk about. You know, a lot of people got excited about the rookie OTAs that were a couple of weeks ago, and Jimmy Moreland having 3 picks in practice, and Dwayne Haskins looked good. Case Keenum didn't look all that great. Yada, yada, yada. Who gives a shit, all right? It's OTAs. I told you, I don't care about any of this stuff till we get to training camp. That's when things start to really matter. They're still in day one installs, and guys don't really know what the hell is going on right now. Really, this is a glorified check on all of these players. It's almost like a bed check, all right? Let's see where you are. Come in. Let's make sure you're not overweight. Let's make sure you're taking care of your body. Let me see what you're talking about. Let me see what you look like. All right, you get together. Hey, you can lift some weights. Look, I don't concern myself with OTAs or any of these mini camps. When training camp hits is when I start to hang on every word of the coach, hang on every word of these beat writers that are in attendance. That's when I start to care and things start to matter to me, how guys performed in practice. We're not there yet. So I was expecting a lot of this talk out of a mandatory camp to be about the progress of Haskins and all of these guys showing up because it's mandatory. So I expected the guys that weren't at the last OTA, the Trent Williams, the Adrian Petersons, the Josh Normans of the world, all those guys to show up, say, hey, I'm here, I'm in shape, leave me alone. So that's what I was expecting. And 9 teams had mandatory minis start this week. The Redskins were one of them. So I said, we'll probably hear some things come out here or there. I'm not really going to concern myself with much of it. As long as we stay clear of the injury reaper, I'm good. I don't want to hear about anybody going down in practice. I already heard an Indianapolis Colts 7th round pick already tore his ACL. He's out for the season. I don't want any parts of that kind of stuff. Spare me, please. All right, we've had enough of that over the last couple of years. So outside of that, nothing could really come of these mini camps and these OTAs. I'm good. All right. So then all of a sudden I get a tweet. Hey, Trent Williams is absent from the building. That's odd. And I'm thinking, First thing I said, don't overreact. Maybe he's still recovering from the surgery he had on his scalp. Remember, for those of you who forgot, Trent Williams had a benign tumor on his brain. And so everyone was all concerned, as you should be. You have a tumor on your brain. That's very dangerous. It's scary. It turned out to be benign, but they went ahead and removed the tumor. And so he was resting comfortably and healing up. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe he's still healing up from that surgery that he had to remove that tumor. And maybe he's not going to participate. He's in contact with the team. They know why he's not there. He's resting and relaxing and putting himself in a position to be ready for training camp. That was my thought process. So I said, I'm not going to overreact. Then another tweet comes out that says, hey, and this was from Ian Rappaport. And then, you know, anytime you get a tweet from Ian Rappaport, you got to take it with a grain of salt because it's Ian Rappaport. He's been so wrong when it comes to the Redskins in the past that you generally take what he says with a grain of salt. But I'm like, Ian says, hey, talk to someone close to the situation. Trent Williams, not in the Redskins facility today at the start of mandatory minis. Heard he wants a new deal, has 2 years remaining on his contract. And I'm thinking to myself, is that so? So now my focus switches to, all right, what's the Redskins' next move? So I'm going to ask you right now, what should the Redskins do? I think the Redskins have 3 options. Here are the 3 options, and I'll tell you in a second what I think they ultimately will do and what they should do. All right, so 3 options are, number 1, you could do nothing. Call his bluff, essentially. All right, you have 2 years left on your deal. You're 31 years old. You're coming off of surgery on your scalp. You haven't played a full 16-game slate since 2013. You have 2 years left, and you're getting paid handsomely in those 2 years remaining on your deal. I think it's something around the neighborhood of 11.5 and 12.5 or something in that neighborhood over the next 2 years. So a total of excess of about 24 to 25 million over the next 2 seasons remaining on his deal. Okay, so the Redskins could call his bluff and say, hey, bro, you got 2 years left on your deal. All right, you stay healthy in 2019. Maybe we'll come back and talk next year about a new deal and an extension. All right, that's the option number one. Option number two is say, hey, Trent, we hear you loud and clear, man. We value you as a Washington Redskin. We want you to retire a Redskin. Let's make this thing happen. Let's extend you out for the next 5 years. So add an additional 3 years on your contract, give you some new money, and make you the highest paid offensive lineman in the National Football League, which is what he ultimately wants. And that's option number two. Give Trent what he wants, a new deal. Option three is something that Trent floated out himself through his people, which is, hey, pay me or trade me. So you could essentially trade him. All right, I think there's still first-round value in Trent Williams, a left tackle that, when healthy, still the best in football, if you ask me. If you don't think he's the best, you still think he's top 5. So in that regard, you should be able to fetch a first-round pick for Trent Williams. That being said, those are your 3 options. I don't think you even consider the third option unless this thing is really serious. Unless Trent is really serious about not playing unless he gets a new deal, and you're not going to give him new money, and there's a serious impasse to the point where you think this is becoming a toxic situation and that something has to be done, because you don't want a leader on your team like Trent Williams to be frustrated and disgruntled. If that's the case, then maybe you have to move on from him. I don't think that option 3 comes into play until you've exhausted every option at number 1 and at number 2. So let's go back and talk about what the Redskins should do. Now, I want to hear from you guys, so leave it in the comment section. You know I read every single one of your comments. I may not respond all the time, but I read and believe me, every goddamn thing you guys say. Even the bullshit you put in the comment section. I read that too. So I want to hear what you guys think the Redskins should do. I'm going to tell you what I think they should do. What I think they will do is what I'll start with. Then I'll give you what I think they should do. What I think they will do ultimately is option number 1. Nothing. They're going to say, hey, Trent, we love you, dude. We understand where you're coming from. Pretty much what Jay Gruden said. Look, it's personal because the media asked him about it after practice yesterday. And he said, look, I talked to Trent. I know where he stands. We want Trent here. He wants to be here. He's a leader on his football team. Everyone wants Trent to be here. And I just think it's a power play. Jay didn't say that. I think it's a power play by Trent. You won't know if they'll give you new money unless you ask, right? It's the old, you don't know until you ask. The worst they can say is no, right? And this is becoming I'm going to talk about this on my podcast this week. Louie T Network podcast. Check it out if you haven't already done so. But I'm going to talk about this on the podcast because this is becoming a new trend. We didn't used to have guys singing out of these mini camps as a statement. If you look around the league, the Lions have 2 of their better players sitting out of their mandatory minis in Darius Slay, their all-world cornerback, and Snacks Harrison, who they just got in a trade last season, during the season, both sitting out because they want new money. And so they're not at these mini camps. And it may have been 1 or 2 guys that sit out of mini camps wanting a new deal, the big name guys. But now all of a sudden it seems like that's the new thing. This is the new trend this year is, hey, I don't want to be here unless you're going to pay me new money or trade me. So I'm going to just sit out and wait. Generally, if a guy's on a franchise tag and he wants a new contract and, you got to July to figure that thing out, then those guys don't show up. But generally, if you're under contract and you want new money, this isn't the time to bitch and moan about that. You want to make a statement, you don't show up for training camp. All right? So you allow the process to play itself out. You show up during all these different OTAs, and you try to work a deal out until you get to training camp. And that's when shit gets real and you're like, hey, I'm not coming to training camp unless I get new money. So all of a sudden now, guys are making a statement earlier. Like, hey, I'm not even coming to mandatories. I want new money. Pay me. So this is becoming a new trend and a fad, and Trent Williams is jumping on the train. That being said, I think the Redskins are going to do nothing here. And look, they love Trent Williams, but they got other fish to fry. And maybe if they work out a new deal, extend Trent out, it may even benefit them in the short term cap-wise because it may pull his initial cap number this year down, which will give them some more flexibility cap-wise to maybe sign a guy like Brandon Sheriff, who they should be in talks with as we speak. They need to get that shit done before training camp starts. All right, because if I'm Brandon Sheriff, once we get to training camp, I don't want to talk about this shit no more. I don't want the media asking me after practice every day, where are we standing in our talks for an extension. Once the training camp starts, I'm done. Or, excuse me, once the season starts, I'm done. So you got all training camp. Once the season hits, we're not talking about this shit no more. I'm done talking to you, and I'm going to just get the free agency. So they need to get that Brandon Sheriff deal done, because the closer he gets to free agency, the more likely he's going to say, you know what? I'm good on signing an extension here. You had an opportunity. Now I want to see what the market is going to have in store for me, which he's going to get broken off if he hits free agency. So the Redskins are going to have to either franchise tag him, or they're going to have to give him the biggest deal of any offensive lineman in football, which is the new trend now. And the Redskins seem, with Bruce Allen as their president and the guy presiding over these contracts, it seems like the Redskins don't understand that that's the way the market is now. The next guy in line sets the market for the amount of money paid. He's going to be the new highest paid. That's why Trent is upset right now, because it looks up and he sees 8 other offensive linemen around football with higher contracts per year on average than he is making. He's got to understand, though, that you got your contract back in 2015, and when you got your contract, you were the highest paid, all right? You reset the market. Now, everyone else is getting their deals, and they're climbing over you. That's what happens, but he doesn't want to hear that shit. He's looking up. I see 3 tackles making more money than me, and I see 5 interior offensive linemen making more money than me. There aren't 8 better offensive linemen in football than me. There aren't 3 better tackles in the game than me. I need to be compensated as such. So, I hear you, Trent, loud and clear, bro. The Redskins hear you, loud and clear. But at the end of the day, you got 2 years left on your contract. You're being paid good money at this point. And so I don't see the Redskins doing anything to accommodate your wishes or your demands at this point. And I think they're going to call this bluff. And we're going to see what Trent decides to do in response to that. What I think the Redskins should do is exactly what I think they're going to do, which is nothing. Look, I want Trent here. I think Trent needs to be here. And I'm not one of these guys that says, hey, you're being paid a ton of money. You need to show up and play. I'm not that dude. Okay. I always side with the players in matters of money, because Trent plays hurt. Trent, you don't know what this man is going through. Yep. He's making a ton of money to be able to do this. He knows and knew what he was signing up for when he decided to play football. I get all of those things. I've heard all the arguments. I read all the comments on Twitter. I know how a lot of you guys feel out there about Trent and how he should just come, shut up, play, that kind of thing. I hear all of that. I don't feel that way. I'm not aggressive in the way of, hey, he should be here. He's under contract. My thing is, though, it's 2 years. If it were 1 year left, I'd totally understand. All right? It's 2 years, though. And there's a precedent that has been set with guys with 2 years remaining wanting a deal. Aaron Donald, never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Did it 3 years ago when he had 2 years left on his rookie deal, and he wanted new money. And DeAndre Hopkins did it 3 years ago as well when he wanted new money. He sat out 1 day of training camp, did DeAndre Hopkins, and then Nuke showed up for training camp, realizing, all right, this is some bullshit what I'm doing right here, and it's not going to end well for me, and I'm still under contract. Let me go back to work. Aaron Donald, however, played hardball up till week 2. Remember, he sat out, actually missed the opening game of the season. And if you remember, the Redskins actually played the Rams in week 2. He came back in week 2, but he didn't play very much. He played sparingly in that game. Redskins caught a break. He did not eat our ass alive. And we actually rushed for a ton of yards. That was Sean McVay's first season. And we went to Los Angeles and won that game on a late Kirk drive and an interception late by Mason Foster to seal the deal. And so he sat out the first week, missed a lot of week 2's game versus us, didn't play because he was on some a snap count. And so he actually went into the season with this holdout. He still didn't get his deal. DeAndre Hopkins didn't get his deal until the following year when there was only 1 year left on his contract. I do not see the Redskins giving in to his demands. Generally, guys don't get new money with 2 years left on their contract unless the team decides they want to do it. In Minnesota with the Vikings, they had a couple of players, one being Everson Griffin, that had 2 years remaining on their deal. Vikings tore up the old contract, gave them new money because those guys were vital to the success of the team and captains and leaders in the locker room, and they felt like they deserved money. If the Redskins feel that way about Trent Williams, they'll break him off. I don't know if they'll do that, but maybe breaking them off will lower the cap number, which will give them a little bit more flexibility in cap space. You know how Eric Schaefer does, making the numbers dance. He may be able to make it so that giving Trent new money frees up more cap space to give them the flexibility they need to go and re-sign Brandon Sheriff. Maybe that's a positive right now. But if it's not going to benefit the Redskins in the short term, and possibly long term, I don't see them making a deal with a 31-year-old offensive tackle that has 2 years left on his deal, that's coming off of surgery on his brain to remove a benign tumor, and also coming off another injury-riddled season in which he did not play 16 games. I just don't see it happening. But again, if they did it, I wouldn't have any problems with that decision. If they didn't do it, I don't have a problem with that decision either. And ultimately, that's what I would do, is say, hey, Trent, I hear you, bruh. We love you. We need you here. You got 2 years left. Come play this year. Let us see what happens. If you stay healthy, if we love your production still at age 31, then we can talk about making you a Redskin for life and letting you wrap up your career where it all started, where you belong. And I think he's on track to have a Hall of Fame career. We'd love for it to end here in DC, and we want you here, and we hear you, and we're going to pay you, Trent. We're going to pay you if you stay healthy this year and you play ball with us. We're gonna reward you next season. Next off season, we're gonna give you the money you're seeking. But just come in and let's talk about this, and let's get this thing done next year. And so I think that's what's gonna happen. I think that's what should happen. I want Trent to get paid. I want Trent to stay here. I just don't see it happening in 2019. But he has every right to exercise this option to sit out and make a statement now so that he lets the team know where he stands and how he feels. But ultimately, I think when it's all said and done, he shows up for training camp if he is ready from the surgery that he had. I think he shows up and he's ready to play ball. And if that's the case, I think it's good for all parties involved. Let's hope that that's how this goes down, because this has been a really good offseason, free of drama. And now all of a sudden we got this laid on our lap, and this could be the start of what is to be a very tough season for Redskins fans, because I still think we're going to be a subpar football team, because I still think that there are a lot of things that we have to do growing-wise, meshing-wise, and then I just think we got a tough schedule, and I don't know if we're equipped with enough talent to handle that schedule, especially at the quarterback position quite yet. But that's another discussion for another day. You know, I'm going to go into the season optimistic, as I always am, hoping for the Redskins to win 10, 11 games, win the division, and make the postseason. But we'll see what the hell happens. But this is the first of possibly many big-time conversations we'll be having about this team this offseason, heading into training camp. This is a huge storyline right now. Trent Williams wanting a new deal. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the Redskins should do? What would you do in this situation with Trent Williams and having 2 years left on his deal, wanting new money? We'll see what happens. I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Look, man, I left the Hard Knocks stuff up there. Why? Because this is a storyline that Hard Knocks would love to follow. I thought we were really getting away from being on Hard Knocks. I felt like the Raiders signing Richie Incognito, adding Antonio Brown, and all the storylines, obviously having John Gruden. There are no guarantees that the Raiders don't make the postseason, so it's easy for everyone to say, hey, you can just do the Raiders next year when they're going to Vegas. What if the Raiders make the playoffs this year? They're a lot closer to making the postseason than we are. They've got a stable quarterback situation. They like all the talent that they have. Yes, I know they play in the same division with the Chiefs. Yes, I know they play in the same division with the Chargers. It's going to be tough on them. And yeah, the Broncos got a veteran quarterback as well. They should be improved. But the Raiders are closer to the postseason than we are. So I'll say this. I thought that the Raiders were going to be on Hard Knocks this year. I still think the Raiders are going to be the choice. However, this storyline with Trent Williams gives Hard Knocks a little bit of pause and says, hey, they got a rookie quarterback in there that they really like. There's a competition there. That's a storyline. They got a coach that's pretty much on the hot seat. If he doesn't win this year, he's gone. That's a storyline. And now you add this Trent Williams situation in. That's a storyline. And oh, by the way, they've got a couple of rookies that they could follow at several positions, receiver being one of them, where there's competition for roster spots available that would be a storyline there as well. So the storylines are adding up for the Redskins to end up on Hard Knocks. I hope it doesn't happen. Once again, I want the Raiders to be the selection, but we'll see what happens. Bottom line is, What do you think the hell is going to happen with this situation with Trent? Leave it in the comment section. Make sure you subscribe to Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. And make sure you like this video and give it the thumbs up, as well as comment on the topic of discussion. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully this thing gets resolved quietly and peacefully, and we can move on, because we don't need any distractions. We're already not good enough to deal with the distractions that come with just being a 6-10, 7-9, 8-8 football team. Let's hope that this isn't something that we got to worry about in the training camp. Let's hope that this is an off-season issue. He shows up for training camp and all is well in La La Land. In any event, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Louie T Network.